All right. Happy Thursday, XO family. Happy Thursday. This is Crystal XO coming to you on a Thursday. We usually don't do Thursday shows, but I had to do this special edition on Love is Blind simply because I was so irritated after really thinking about the entire season. We know that the season finale, the weddings, aired yesterday, and for any of you who have not watched that, I do want to let you know that this is going to be a spoiler alert. This is a spoiler alert. This is 5 reasons why I feel like the show was trash this season. Really, why the producers were irresponsible. The production company, I feel like, was extremely irresponsible. But I do want to let you guys know there are spoilers. So if you have not watched the entire season and you're concerned about that, and not wanting to see spoilers, and make sure that you like this and then you leave and come back later. But I want to say that there were a lot of things that, oh, thank you, Tina Bree. Hey, Jersey. I do want to say that there are a lot of things that happened this season that were just good TV, right? So they might have been tragic. They might have been, irritating to us as a viewer. We might have felt like they played in our faces, but some of the things were, just really good TV, right? So I don't want to confuse that with things that I feel like were really like irresponsible in terms of the way that you treat cast. So I do think a lot of the relationships were BS, but I think that's why we tune in to Love is Blind. We tune in to see is love really blind? And I believe the answer is always a resounding no. It's a resounding no. So there were a lot of relationships. I think most seasons we know that there are going to be people that once those doors open, they see who they've been talking to, and the voice doesn't match the physical, the physicality of that person. That happens all the time. I did think this season was, it's always heartbreaking. It's always hard to watch, but I think this season was a little bit more. And so speaking about, Joe and Madison, I think that was one of the worst cases, allegedly. Now, I don't know if any of this is true, so I'm just going to say allegedly to protect myself and the channel. But allegedly, Madison, after all of this, dealt with an eating disorder, which I could really see happening simply because I can see that happening to anyone who would go through this process and then get to the end and someone say, going back and watching that and hearing how a person is talking about your physicality would be hard for anybody. But I also think that's just a part of coming on the show. So I think the idea of people not liking what the other person looks like, that's a part of the show. Even though it may be, it may be hard to watch, it also is why we watch. But I think there were certain things that happened, specifically the 5 things that I'm going to point out tonight, that I think show that the production was irresponsible and negligent. And I think when that happens, things can happen that cause people to have lasting emotional scars. Like they may need mental help. You could need mental help after being on reality TV anyway, but I'm talking about dangerous things, right? That people shouldn't play with. And I think when you use someone's illness, whether it be mental illness or physical illness, and they're not in an emotionally healthy place, and you use that for ratings, I think that's despicable. I think we see that happening a lot. And I do want to point out that Love is Blind has had numerous lawsuits, from the way the cast has been treated, them not getting enough sleep, them being given alcohol without adequate food, and just the hours, being past the boundaries that are recommended for television and for filming. So I do want to make sure that we acknowledge that the production company has come under fire. Even, allegations of misconduct when it comes to interaction between cast members. That has all been a part of the history of this show. So before we get into the 5 reasons I feel like the show was negligent, if you watched last night, Scorpio and Mo and I recapped the show. Obviously, this was a huge disappointment, Joe and Madison. And like I said, hopefully these allegations aren't true, but people are alleging that after the show and because of the show that Madison did deal with an eating disorder. Hopefully she's gotten herself together. I do know there was another cast member a few seasons ago, or maybe even last season, where weight was an issue and was brought up and kind of weaponized against her. And she lost a lot of weight and came back, looking very different. And so, kind of got her revenge. But I think anytime you go on a show like this, you have to be aware of that. I do think Madison was a little bit oblivious. And so I'm going to play this clip that I pulled. This is before we're getting into the 5 things. This is uncomfortable to watch, but this is also why we watch Love is Blind. So this is a scene it was a deleted scene. It's not one that played in the episodes on Netflix, but it was shared online later. And this shows Joe once again stumbling and stuttering about how he felt when he saw Madison when they had the reveal.
I think like when you first saw me.
I was pleasantly surprised. I'll say that. Yeah. But I was thinking like, I hope she didn't get freaked out about my reveal.
Did you feel like you were spaz? Okay.
Yeah. I was like, I hope she didn't think I was a spaz.
It wasn't that bad.
Okay, good. I was trying to process it all, I think, but it was like so intense. Did it not feel that way for you?
Like yes and no.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was like, oh Joe, my nervous boy.
I was nervous.
It's like
a ball of nerves.
my nervous boy. Yeah. And then I was like, I don't know if he was into me.
Yeah. Oh, you thought that? I'm sorry if they came off like that.
I think it was just because you were nervous.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I refused to accept that he wouldn't be into me.
Right.
It's like,
yeah, good. No, I was like, I hope she doesn't think like she's put off or anything like that.
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay. What did you think when you saw me?
I was like, oh my God, he's so handsome.
Oh.
You looked like what I thought you were going to look like.
And you thought I had dark hair and
yeah.
Okay.
Like a baby face, kind of.
Do I have a baby face?
I think
I'll take it.
A little baby face.
Okay.
I think so.
It's the Botox.
Do you get Botox?
Let's not talk about it.
Do you?
I don't know, maybe.
No, you don't. Your forehead's moving, do you?
We'll get into it later, maybe.
Tell me. What the hell?
No, it's just a good skincare routine, I think.
Okay. That was like, we saw people accusing Joe of using Botox numerous times this season. And he actually brought it up himself, which is hilarious because he said it could be the Botox. And then she said, you use Botox? And he says, let's don't talk about it. Sir, why'd you bring it up? Interesting. And I'm sure he's way too young to be using Botox, but that just lets us know that Joe wanted to be on TV because he is keeping up maintaining a routine for someone that is going to be on television. So that's definitely why he was there. Really quickly, that situation was very toxic from the beginning. I don't think that Joe wanted to hurt her feelings, but I don't think he expected to see someone on the other side that was not physically perfect, which is crazy because people come on here and every season you see that someone is unhappy with what the other person looks like, but yet people still come on and then they're disgusted and upset when they see who's on the other side. So Joe, and that's a normal issue for this season. I also think that really quickly, I was very, very irritated by Allie and Anton, just because I think as the season wore on, initially I liked them, but as the season wore on, you kind of saw Allie's superficial nature, and the fact that I think she really was she wanted to be on television. And I also think that she has this princess mentality of wanting to find a man to just kiss her behind. She said very clearly she had no intention of basically being a partner that contributed. He said, well, you're not cleaning up after yourself. You're not going to wash your clothes. And she was like, no. She also said that while she was in school, she basically would not be able to do anything. Another thing that was troublesome was her friends. There was a couple of deleted scenes where her friends were also like kind of quizzing Anton. And they really, really were like disgusted by the fact that he was a truck driver, which was crazy to me. They talked about him like a truck driver was like he cleaned pig slop or something, and she was like, well, he wants to do other things. If he was just a truck driver alone, I wouldn't like that. And I know there are a lot of people that feel like that, but the fact that, again, I'm not mad. That's good TV that, has her being very insensitive. I'm sure she's going to try to explain that away at the reunion. There's a lot of people that are going to be explaining things away at the reunion, but I also took into consideration that her mother said that she got married sight unseen and came to America. So her mother married for financial stability and financial good. And she produced this daughter that, she's kind of built up as this beauty queen. And so it made perfect sense. But, and again, these are the things that we like to see on television. You like to see someone that is so superficial. We like to beat them down, but we really also like to see those things. But again, that's not what I was talking about when it comes to the fact that this production, I think, was negligent for numerous reasons. So let's get into the 5 reasons that I believe this season was trash. And not just, yes, it probably was good for ratings. I'm sure people are talking about it, but I think certain things cross the line between ratings and the show being fiscally responsible for the people that are that they sign on and they hire, as stars. Well, I don't want to call them stars, but the people, the cast. So I think you have to be responsible with your cast, and I think there are numerous signs that this season that was not the case. I think the number one reason to me that it was obvious that this season there was a lot of irresponsibility was 2 castmates left in the first 4 episodes. 2 castmates left in the first, they just ghosted, just got up and left. We know, if you guys watched, that was Blake and Anna. Marriott, I have not posted on TikTok, but I definitely should. But thank you for that. I've been trying to figure out how to start, do restructuring so that we're on TikTok as well. But anyway, Blake and Anna both left the pods before, I want to say, like episode 4. It was really early on. Anna was the first to go. And actually, there was this scene where Patrick is coming. He's really excited. We see this entire conversation with the 2 of them about race. And I'm going to get into that in just a bit. But Patrick comes, there's an empty chair. She never shows up. He's actually prepared to kind of make her his number 1. Now, the reason I think this shows negligence is because later, afterwards, Anna was shared, they've been doing interviews, and she said that she was concerned about what her parents would think. She acknowledged that her parents, they're immigrants, and she did not think that they would be comfortable with her doing the show. Now, that just tells me that they did not do a great job of vetting the cast, right? Because if she is on the show and she's filming episodes, and you guys know when you film, they have to pay them, they have to feed them, they have to house them. So that's spending money. So you're spending money to have someone here that you haven't adequately vetted. That's irresponsible. And so with her saying that the conversation, she's having this conversation in the pods, she's probably having a conversation that she doesn't feel like culturally her parents would appreciate. If you guys remember watching that, she talked about not dating Asians and feeling almost very uncomfortable in those situations when she and Patrick had this conversation. And here is, for those of you that have not seen this, is Patrick with the person that he ended up going to after Anna left, which was Casey, which we're going to get into in a minute. But there was this very odd conversation that they had and about race. Not odd, definitely, but just not the correct forum for this. And I am certain that that was probably one of the things that, weighed upon Anna when she went back to the women's lounge and decided that this was not good for her. But to me, for someone that would leave that quickly, it just proves that she was not vetted, appropriately. The same thing with Blake. So Blake did not have the same situation. He actually had a connection with Anna. He also had a connection with Megan, who we know later ended up picking between Jordan and Mike, and she actually ended up picking Mike. I think that if Blake hadn't left, she was definitely going to pick him. And he says that later when he was asked, he said that he never even thought about acknowledging that he was going to leave. There's, you know, I know that we've had some rough seasons, but for two people to leave that early in the season, it just proves that the production company and the producers, the showrunner, they're not doing a great job of actually talking to these people and letting them know what is going to happen. More than likely, they're just trying to hurry up and turn things around. And they're probably looking for people that are a little emotionally unstable so that they can exploit them on the show. I think that's something that we see happen on a lot of reality television shows. The bigger the personality and the more sensitive for the personality, the better the ratings, because they're going to do something that's, you know, unhinged. They're going to do something that seems very strange that can cause ratings to go up. It says in the pods, Blake acknowledged he was developing connections with several people, but he started to realize that the experiment wasn't going to work for him. And he said that his decision was not influenced by Anna leaving. But I also think when one person leaves, then other people realize, oh, this is possible and I can just leave. Another, you know, more proof that this is not a solid cast. Like, you guys did not have a solid cast of people. If you have a solid cast, then you know that the people are at least there and they know what to expect. I think they're bringing people there. They're not being forthcoming with them. And so I mean, for Anna, especially, like, for you to get into it, we have had people leave before, but two in the first 4 episodes is alarming. And that leads me to number 2 in my reasons of 5 reasons that Love is Blind was trash this season. There was a lot of racially insensitive conversation with no responsible context. I believe that whenever you're having conversations like this, there was a lot of just very sensitive, you know, conversation on behalf of Patrick and Anna about feeling insecure, feeling insignificant because of their background, you know, them being Asian and growing up in predominantly white spaces. And I think when you have conversations like that, there has to be some, you know, accountability and responsibility on behalf of production. Like, even if they didn't do it on camera, there should have been some conversation, because watching it, you know, Patrick made statements like, you know, I've been told I'm cute to be an Asian guy, and I don't usually date Asians. And Anna's, that's not Patrick. Sorry, that's Joe. That's the opposite of Patrick. With Patrick making these statements, and then Anna speaking about how difficult it was for her as well, and then both kind of dealing with just a lot of issues to me in a very public, insensitive forum about who they are and not feeling comfortable with that. I would have really liked to see, at the bare minimum, at the end of those shows, some type of blurb with a hotline or a website, because you got to realize, what are people that are watching that, how are they going to feel? You know, when other people that are in that same situation, there are other Asian people watching that are in predominantly white spaces that may feel the same way, but when it's handled irresponsibly, I think that is, you know, unfortunate, because it can really cause a ripple effect and a lot of issues. Married at First Sight had similar issues one season, where there was just a lot of racial conversation without context and handled in a really irresponsible way. If you guys remember, there was a African-American woman who was, I believe she was pansexual or bisexual, and then she was with an Indian Indian American guy, and he felt very offended at a comment that she made. And again, it makes for great ratings and, you know, a lot of attention, but these are really deep cultural wounds that I think you perpetuate with viewers that haven't dealt with them, and at least without adding some type of, you know, context to making sure that they get help for that, you know. And I'm sure if you do have therapists on hand, which someone has said that allegedly Love is Blind has therapists on hand, but judging from the way things went this season, I cannot imagine. And I haven't even gotten to the biggest proof, the example that gives us the most proof that there was not a therapist on hand. But But no, but the woman was bi. I know she was at least bi because she had talked about being bi. And I'm talking about Married at First Sight, which came back tonight. So, and I will be reviewing that as well. But I just felt like the conversations for Anna and Patrick really should have been cut from the edit just because of what they could have done to other people watching, and they were just not handled correctly. That's not, a reality show on Netflix that's for fun is not where we should be dealing with someone's, feelings of being uncomfortable about who they are with their race, because again, that can be very triggering for other people watching it. And, we all have enough issues to be insecure, but it was very touchy. It was very raw. And I think we want raw on reality shows, but if you're going to have that, then you have to have a setup that's responsible, that allows the viewer to digest the information and the content that's uncomfortable, but also provide some information and clarity and context. And so for that reason, I feel like the producers were really insensitive when they chose to air that conversation and those conversations, even the conversation with Patrick and Casey, where he is telling her that he is Asian, and she's asking him about it, and he hesitates to tell her, and it was just very, very uncomfortable. You could tell he did not want to admit to her that he was Asian, right? And then she actually, when she ends up rejecting him in the most ridiculous way, she's like, I don't want him to think it's because he's Asian. Like, I just think, and I'm not a part of the Asian community, but I just feel like if I were, I would be very offended and I would be very upset at how that was handled. And I think that is not on the cast. That's not on the cast. That is on production and what they chose to release in the edit. And I'm also certain that there was a lot more conversations that could have been edited to be salacious and get attention without being racially insensitive. And I feel like the conversation that we saw with Anna and Patrick, and then the conversation that we saw with Patrick and Casey, were both extremely racially insensitive. So that is my number 2. Now, number 3, it was a lot this season. Number 3, Casey was a huge red flag. These sexually explicit combos were cringy. And I'm telling you guys, they were beyond cringy. I almost couldn't believe that we were watching that on Love is Blind. It felt like she was auditioning to be a phone sex operator or something. And again, I understand that we need ratings, and I understand that they want to, to pull people in. But, and I'm also certain that they've had other seasons where people have racy talk, right? Racy conversation. But I think with Casey, it came across as extremely desperate and just cringeworthy. Like, literally, she talked about, you can talk about wanting someone, but she referenced her landing strip. It made Patrick uncomfortable. That's what, forget the viewer. Patrick did not know what to say. He was uncomfortable, but it also motivated him to definitely pick her. But I think that was just a bit too far. I think because it just didn't fit the flow of Love is Blind, right? We usually have these conversations with people where they do a lot of oversharing about their family. They do a lot of oversharing about their insecurities and things that have happened to them in their past, because they're talking to a wall. They feel very safe. They feel very comfortable. But we have not seen someone basically turn it into I almost felt like there needed to be an additional payment for Casey's conversation. Like, how you pay extra for the explicit after dark, conversation. She was very unhinged the entire time. Even how she left, and immediately, you guys know that 2 hours after she saw Patrick in the reveal is when she packed her stuff and told producers that there was no way her attraction could grow for him, because she was not she was not attracted to him, and there was no way that was going to change. So she tells the producers that, and then there was no accountability for anybody on this show. So she told them that, and she goes to confront him and wraps her legs around his waist and tongues him down. It was really, really bizarre, but it also was in alignment with her racy conversation. But it just, so she said, she talks about her landing strip and wanting him to land the plane on the landing strip, right? Then she sees him. Well, no, she talks about, she has a sexy talk, and then she asks him to tell her what his nationality is, and he hesitates, right? Because he does not want to say it. It almost like seems like it's physically paining him to acknowledge that he's Chinese and Cambodian, right? Then she immediately after she sees him goes and tells production that she is not attracted to him and she wants to go home. There's nothing she can do. She doesn't want to go to the trip to Mexico. So Patrick, they go get Patrick. They tell him that she wants to tell him. At least she didn't ghost him, I guess, but maybe they made her do that. So this person that she's not attracted to, she proceeds to tongue down, right? And then to wrap her legs around his waist and says that she just can't do it in this baby voice. I'm not sure who told women that the baby voice works. Maybe the baby voice does work, because there are a lot of women that do the baby voice. It's very strange. But she does this baby voice where she tells him she just can't do it, but she's not rejecting him. It's not him. She just needs to go home. She lies. She just does a full lie. She's a sexually explicit lie, because she keeps having like tonguing him down. So it's like a lot of people on Love is Blind, they kiss, like they peck or they do, but she actually has like these passionate kisses with this person that she's just told production she's not attracted to. If men do not use this as proof of women not needing to be physically attracted to you, to be intimate with you, to get what they want, I don't know what is, because she she tongues him down and she wraps her body around him, and she fakes like she can't bear to pull herself away. It is dramatic and thematic as hell. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't say that she deserves an Oscar, but she definitely did the most. She definitely did the most. And then afterwards, I watched, a few interviews with Patrick, and I will just say, I'm going to go on the record saying, because Netflix went ahead and played this and allowed the racial insensitivity to happen, and so I'm going to address it. I think that because Patrick has so much he is so in awe and wants so badly to be with someone that represents the ideal Caucasian like Casey, that he did not even receive her rejection. It just rolled off of him like water off a duck's back. He said that he felt like Casey cared for him, and he felt like she did not want to hurt his feelings. He never really swallowed the fact that she's not into you. She's disgusted by you. He never acknowledged that. Like, it just didn't, even after the seeing the show, because when he was doing these interviews, he's this is after the show has aired and he's seen it just like we all have. And he still doesn't want to acknowledge that this woman played you on purpose. She wanted to be on TV. She had a boyfriend tell her that she should go on Love is Blind to get, attention. She did what he said. And even when he saw, he was like, that's a little bit of a red flag. He didn't allow it to register. And even after she has rejected him in front of production, he still will not acknowledge it. He still won't even, he's in denial. He's in a deep, sick form of denial. And I believe that it's because she is blonde and blue-eyed and represents the prototype of what he has been taught is beautiful. And someone that looks like him, he does not see beauty there. And I think that is extremely dangerous. I think that is very dangerous. I think that is one of the reasons why I was disgusted with this season, because these are not issues that should be on a reality show for entertainment consumption. These are huge cultural wounds, that are affecting people and people are struggling with in a way that should not be used for entertainment value. Just my 2 cents. I'm just somebody on YouTube speaking, but I just think that it is disgusting that they would play on things like that for ratings. Casey, the sexuality, her, being over sexualized, that is just dangerous in itself. Like, you don't, her using her sexuality to try to get him to pick her and to propose to her was disgusting to watch. And I just wish that we didn't see them at all. Like, I wish we did not. There were other people in the pods, and I don't understand why production chose these stories to tell. I don't know. There's so many people that film, Love is Blind. I had a girlfriend that I knew here, actually two of them that were part of the Atlanta season, the first season, and we never saw them on camera, right? Because their stories, and actually one of the girls ended up with the guy that she met there for years. I don't know if they're still together, but how do you choose not to tell the story that actually works for the story that is more salacious? And that's what they often choose to do. And I think with this season, like I said, I know they've been sued before. I hope there is a lawsuit this season for a number of reasons. I haven't even gotten to my main ones yet, but I felt like Casey's sexually explicit conversation just should have been off limits. And I also feel like Patrick's insecurity and the pain that he's struggling with as an Asian American in a predominantly white space should not have been exploited. All right, moving on to number 4. I know a lot of you are going to agree with me, and I think some of you may not, but I think Edmund was a plant for ratings by production. And this was very, very difficult. This was difficult. This was what pissed me off the most about this season. When we first saw Edmund, the very first scene when Nick is going in to greet the guys, Edmund shares his story. Now, of course, we know they filmed for a long time, so they could have been filming for 8 hours to 10 hours before we saw this. But it is one of the first things that we see happen this season. We see Nick go in and tell the guys and ask them why they're here, why they've signed up for Love is Blind. And Edmund's response is that he grew up without a family. He grew up in foster home, and his parents were not there, and he really wants a family. He starts crying in that very first scene. And I knew, I was like, oh no. He was cast specifically for ratings. It was, to me, extremely irresponsible and disgusting to cast someone who is struggling with, yes, I agree. Your average logical thinker says when Edmund admitted to eating his own boogers in the intro, we knew something was wrong. Absolutely. Later, when Edmund licked the floor, we knew that something was wrong. But even every conversation, from the way the rest of the guys were looking at him, the way that the other guys were not really interacting with him because they knew that he was strange, there's no way that he passed one psych evaluation, much less the alleged rigorous psych evaluation that they have to be on this show. I watched the interview with AD from one of the seasons with Love is Blind that went horrible with her and Clay. But AD has her own podcast, and she welcomed KB on the show. And I watched that interview yesterday. I finished it up earlier today. And what worried me about that interview is that, first of all, KB seems totally just clueless to the issues. This person is not, I don't want to say he's different, but he's definitely dealing with some pain, right? Some painful issues. And you don't exploit that. But the entire cast knew that. She claims in this interview that there were people making fun of him, girls that were like, oh, nobody could take him seriously. Another girl, she did not mention what castmate it was, but she said that Edmund did have another another interest, right? Another option, right? She also admits in that interview that she played Edmund and the other option against each other because she wanted to win. She doesn't say that she wants to win. I'm paraphrasing, but she does say the other girl comes in and she's talking about Edmund and she goes back and asks Edmund. So we didn't see any of that. We didn't see any of that. They chose to leave that out of the edit. What we saw is they enjoyed showing us Edmund have numerous breakdowns, often without reason, you know, and KB said that if she could say one word about herself this season, it would be patient. And I don't feel like she was as patient with Edmund. I feel like she was patient with the process of wanting to get to the end. Because when she acknowledged that another girl was saying, most of the girls were saying, oh my God, no one could take him serious. They were all, you know, just disgusted with him. But this other girl, and again, this girl did not have great intentions. It was like she wants to get to the end. So she also said that she knew it was a short thing. And I said this yesterday, that I knew that with her, she knew if she could show Edmund this empathy, because she is a social worker. She did acknowledge that she is a social worker. She knew how to manipulate him, and her goal was to get to the end, and she did. But in the meantime, we saw a lot with Edmund that is probably going to be hurtful for him later. If you guys watched the wedding, we know that KB got him all the way there and did all this almost like gaslighting, just like Casey did, touching his face. Now she didn't do as bad as she did, but she also, you know, I love you, all this stuff. And then to get to the part where she says, she says no. And he doesn't expect that, because Edmund has like this childlike energy. And I've seen a lot of people online that don't feel empathy for him. And I just think that's sad, because I think everyone has someone that they in their family, or someone that they're in their friend's family that struggles with social issues, right? So be it being autism or having autism, or just having social anxiety, or there are issues that so many people deal with more now than ever, because social media, I think, has introduced that. But for someone like Edmund, who was not raised in a stable environment, that is not somebody that you should exploit. I think that is shameful. I think it is shameful. I think that there's no way Edmund was going to be able to show up in this process as a real option for a woman to actually marry. And I believe that there's no way that Edmund was going to show up in that process as a viable, responsible option for a woman to marry. There is no one that would have been able to get to the end of that and say yes, because he is not in an emotional place where he could even be a husband, probably not even a boyfriend. He needs some help. Right? He needs some help to deal with a lot of the pain that he has. I talked about it the first time, a couple Wednesdays ago, when Scorpio Mo and I first talked about the show. I was like, his pain is too close to the surface. There are a lot of us that deal with pain. Most people have pain in some way, right? Something happened when you were growing up. You lost someone. Maybe your parents weren't perfect. Parents aren't perfect. But to come from parents who, I believe, struggled with some type of addiction and abandon you, and to not be far enough on the other side of that, was just a disgusting way for producers to make ratings. I feel like it was disgusting. And that's why I'm like, this one is not necessarily a Kiki recap. This really is like, shame on you guys. Shame on you guys for seeing this man who came on the show, right? Yes, he came on the show. He signed up for the show. But you could see all of his issues from that very first scene with Nick. He's running an invisible marathon in the pods. The other guys are making fun of him. The girls are making fun of him. The public at this point is making fun of him. there are a lot of people who do have empathy for him, but there are a lot of people saying that, you know, she couldn't deal with him, he's crazy, but he was put in that position, right? And I do believe he could have been neurodivergent. He has some issues aside from just whatever his social issues are. We have to acknowledge that this young man told us that he did not grow up with parents. He moved from place to place, and he was on an invisible marathon like a hamster. Well, did you see him? Who was he? They were like, and they were making fun of him, right? The guys were like, "Go, Edmund," and he's acting like he's at a track meet, and there's no one running against him. And it's not funny. Like it was. I thought that was really disgusting that they would use someone like that. Now, if you want to have people that are superficial, and that's one thing. But when someone is mentally unstable and you take advantage of that, I believe he was a plant for ratings by production. I think there's a lot of people that sign up for reality television shows that are not mentally sound. And I think the whole reason for doing a psych eval is for these people is because not only can they be that can be dangerous for them because they're already dealing with a lot of trauma, past trauma and pain, and then you add on the country making fun of them, dragging them on social media to a mentally sound person. That can be unsettling and can be life-changing. But can you imagine to someone who has grown up with all the issues they had to then be in there? That can be very dangerous. I feel it is very irresponsible and dangerous to put someone in that mental predicament. And I also believe when we went further into the honeymoon and we see KB is basically, I feel like she was just playing with him the entire time. She also did double down on her belief. And I just want to say this part is crazy on her part. She felt like she was the sane one, kind of manipulating him to get to the end and all that. But her explanation of having a one-night stand with a man that she doesn't care about because she can just be cold with him the next day, and as opposed to someone that she cares about not wanting to sleep with him, she needs some more therapy herself. And she said that she was in therapy. That is very dysfunctional thinking for someone that claims that they're in a place where they want a relationship. That is not, no man. Now, Edmund's response was definitely not, normal and was over the top, right? But that's not well for her to say. And any man most men are just going to dismiss you, put you in a box of plaything, because that reasoning is extremely flawed. That reasoning is you're trying to play a man's game, and that does not work. And if that is what you're doing, why would you be telling people that? That makes no sense at all. I hope that she figures that out and stop saying that and get some help, because why would you share your body that I hope you value with someone that doesn't care about you, as opposed to someone that does? As it ass backwards. But there are a lot of women, a lot of times we learn late in life. I hope she learns about that, like how that's backwards. A lot of women feel like, oh, well, it's my body and I want to do it. But again, why you would opt to share you, which you only have one of, like money comes and goes, clothes come and go. And the crazy thing is, I always tell girls this, and they never, a lot of them receive it, a lot of them don't. For those that don't, blessings to you. But if you have $5,000, right? To a lot of people, that's a good sum of money. $5,000, and someone walks up to you on the street that you don't care about and says, give me that money. You're going to say, no, I'm not giving this to you. There are some people that would not even give their parent $5,000. But you will take that same person that you would not get. Hell, some people would not give a stranger $5. But for you to give someone your body, that's saying that you don't see yourself as worth more than that. You definitely don't think you're worth $5,000, right? Because you wouldn't give something that you value to someone that you don't. Doesn't make sense. Even if you feel like I can be intimate without feelings, you still should be more, you would still be more selective about who you choose to do that with, and saying, I would just, I would just lay down with you and not care about you the next day. Girl, that means that's telling me as a man that you don't value yourself. You know what I mean? And she didn't see that. And bless her. And I hope that she changes and she sees that. But yes, Edmund's response was off kilter, right? He starts crying. I mean, part of his response was the fact that's any man is going to be like, what? So I got to work for it and you're not going to give it to me. But if I don't care about you, then you will. I'm in the wrong line. I am in the wrong line. I would think that if I was a man, I'm in the wrong line. But outside of that, KB was manipulating him to get to the very end. I think that she talked about the fact that they on the very first conversation, he told her all his trauma. Again, while he's spilling his guts, and this is not a story, this is really him. This really happened. He's still dealing with that. And the proof of it is later in the wedding scene, the wedding episode, which I'm going to talk about as my last point. But this is not a story. This is not TV. This is his real life. And he's pouring this out. And you're saying, as a social worker, that you understand him. If that's the case, you should have been like, he doesn't need to be on this show. But instead, you see him as an opportunity to go all the way, because no one else was really an option for her. She said, AD asked her, was there anyone else that she was connected to? No. So she knew that she had to make it with Edmund to go all the way. And that's what she planned to do. And because she knew that he was so weak, because of his hurt, because of his pain, then she knew that she could use him and manipulate him. And she actually manipulated the other castmate as well. I'm interested to see if that's going to come out on the reunion, if they're going to acknowledge who that was, because she definitely talked about it in length in the interview with AD, how she kind of played this girl. This girl came back and said, Edmund was her guy. And she was just like, oh, you're telling another girl that she's your number one. She basically did what Mike did. But we saw Mike do it with Megan. And we realized that he was a manipulator, and it didn't end up working. But I do think that Mike is going to come back and try it with Megan after her and Jordan didn't work out. I definitely think that he's going to try it, not because he likes her, but because he has a huge ego. And obviously KB does as well. She did one thing I will give her credit for is that she would not dog him because AD wanted her to. AD kept asking about, did she like the way he dressed? She admitted that. She said, well, his fly was different than hers. And I want to credit, I talked about this last night, but I want to do this again tonight. I really want to credit KB's mom, because I think that out of everybody on this show that used Edmund, that exploited Edmund, I think that KB's mother saw that this boy is hurt. This young man is hurting and is not healthy. And she genuinely had empathy and compassion for him. And I think she's the only person that showed him that in this entire situation. The only person. If you guys remember, she comes in. It shocked me that was even her mother, because she was doing so much to try to comfort him and console him, almost like she knew exactly what was going to happen with her daughter. And she wanted him to have a little bit of a foundation with which not to fall too hard. And I thought that was beautiful. I think that part of her, because I was like, well, if the mother is so compassionate and such a grounded person, why is her daughter like that? But, I think that's the part of her that KB had that did not dog Edmund out, right? She used him and she manipulated him, but she did not dog him out afterwards. And I could appreciate that, because there are so many people dogging this young man out that's already gone through so much, right? And so I think her mother is the only person that showed him grace and showed him kindness in this entire situation. The producers used him, the other castmates berated him and belittled him. KB manipulated him and used him to make sure that she would get to the end. But her mother showed him compassion and really, really, I feel like even more so than anyone besides his teacher, right? And that was a beautiful thing to see. That interview with AD, to me, I think a lot of people were really like saying that AD was coming for her, but I didn't feel like that. I feel like AD was trying to get to the story, trying to get something to make her podcast go viral, right? Which is what she's going to do. I will say that I'm a little concerned about AD and Ollie's relationship. Good luck, girl. Good luck, girl. Because that's going to be interesting if that works out. But I just think that KB's explanation of the way things happen actually made me think less of her, and which we knew that she was using him. I never felt like she was really into it, but I feel like even with her using him, she did not have to put him through all the emotional hoops that she did, right? You know that he's not okay. You asking him, would he fight a man for you, was unnecessary, and pushing him to that point. Also, going back and forth, I feel like she knew that he was the weaker person and he was going to break. And she also knew that he was very genuine, and she knew that she needed to get to the end of that show. And so, but again, I'm not even going to blame KB. I really blame production, because there were numerous signs, and can you believe what happened that we did not see? This is just, we saw him lick the floor. We saw him admit to eating his boogers. When he licked the floor, the guys were like, "Are you putting your mouth on that floor?" And he said, "My mouth has been worse places." He talked about, growing up and not having food, not having a place to stay. And there's been even if he's gone to therapy, he needs more. There's been no healing. So I just feel like with someone like that, the bigger person just says, you know what, this is not it. But with KB, she said, this is a way for me to get to the end. And so she stayed. That is my fourth point. My fifth point is Edmund's dysfunctional family was also used for ratings. Ooh, and I don't know. I just said that. Just a quick pivot, because I'm always reading the chat. But I just said AD and Ollie are still together. They're still together, because when KB was there doing the interview, Ollie was there. He's not on camera, but she shouts him out. I'm just saying that a relationship built in reality hype, I would be very concerned about. Okay, back to Edmund's family. Now, you guys know that watch this channel. It's very emotional for me. I do feel like I'm able to be unbiased, but with me having a parent that suffered from substance abuse addiction, I feel very strongly about people not exploiting that disease. I feel like, and this is just my feelings, I don't have any proof of this, but when I saw Edmund's mother in that scene, I felt very much like she was struggling with some type of addiction, right? I feel very much like his mother was struggling and still currently is struggling with some type of addiction. And I'll tell you why. In the scene, there were several concerning moments throughout the scene. There is a scene where as soon as they come back from Mexico, they move in together and KB meets Edmund's mother. Now, aside from the fact that she's dressed a little odd, okay, she goes through numerous ranges of emotion in a short period of time. She also says some things that are very concerning. The first thing is she sees KB and she hugs her and she's like, I am excited to meet you as my daughter-in-law. Says she has 3 other daughters-in-laws. She says that my other daughters-in-laws like to come back and tell on me to my sons. You're not going to tell on me, are you? What? What? That she says, she welcomes her. She says how pretty she is. And she says, I hope that you're not going to tell on me. A lot of my other daughter-in-laws like to tell on me. You're not going to tell Edmund on me. What in the hell is she talking about? We know, I feel like she's talking about her doing stuff that the sons probably don't want her to do, right? She also says that she ends up crying. First, she kind of like seems like she's upset, and she's like, he's a good guy, he's a good guy. And she's like, almost like, don't mess over my baby, right? Then she goes into tears of like guilt, like the guilt tears of like, I wasn't always there for him, but he's a good kid. Edmund puts his head down and starts crying. You see him look like a little boy, right? Just caving. Then she says that she has a gift for KB, and the gift is waist beads from Ghana. She says she had them made. Then when KB asked for them, she says, how do you put them on? She says that she's going to tell Edmund how to put them on, right? And then she says, but you're going to go to Ghana with me. It is the most bizarre meeting with the mother, and it's a mother that's not emotionally sound. She is overly excited and happy. Then she's standoffish and like, you got to do my son right. Then she's in tears, and then she's talking about a fake future that we know is not going to happen. How is Edmund's mother getting to Ghana? And I'm not saying that she has not been to Ghana, but I'm just saying the likelihood of that is slim to none. Her behavior was extremely erratic in that episode. And I feel, again, like it was irresponsible of production to exploit that. It was irresponsible. Later for the wedding, right, his 5th grade teacher comes, and his 5th grade teacher, I am so glad that she was there, because the mother that we saw give this very bizarre scene doesn't show up for the wedding. She's a no-show. Typical behavior of someone that's struggling with something. Now, you add all these things up. Edmund said often they didn't have food to eat. He mentioned that his teacher would often bring food and give it to him at school because she knew that he didn't have food at home, that he moved around a lot and he was often in foster care, and that his mother and father could not take care of him. Then we meet the mother, who acts like she's in tears, excited to meet her new daughter-in-law. She also then says, are you going to tell on me? This is all bizarre as hell, and something that should not be on reality TV. Then she does not show up for the wedding, and this father does. But interestingly enough, they do not put the father on camera. They don't mic him up. They show him, who does not look like Evan, by the way. We understand that people can, fatherhood and motherhood, genetics are often a very tricky thing, but this don't look like their boy daddy at all. So they have him in the front. They label him as Edmund's father, but we don't see them have a moment when he's getting ready. When he's getting ready to walk down the aisle, it is his 5th grade teacher that comes. And the 5th grade teacher was the best thing that they could have done. Thank God that they did not exploit further and have the father on audio. But I just feel like the entire thing should not have happened. Edmund should not have been on this cast. That woman should not have been on TV. And whoever that man was sitting in the front as Edmund's father should not have been there. The teacher was the saving grace, the teacher and KB's mother, right? But the way Edmund let out a cry when KB said no. And a lot of people had a lot of fun with that on social media. Even yesterday when we were talking about it on here, Scorpio Mo laughed about it. And I know a lot of people, don't feel the same empathy. But to me, I was just like, if he's on camera doing that, can you imagine how someone who is struggling with their mental health, who is has been rejected by their parents their entire life, and then they are they are rejected in front of television cameras on a show that can be seen over and over every time you go to Netflix. Can you imagine what that could do to someone? That is very dangerous. That could cause someone to mentally break. I pray that he doesn't. I really pray that he doesn't. I pray that Edmund has gotten help. I pray that he's this happy-go-lucky person that we see on his Instagram. But what we do know is that there's a lot of darkness and deep wounds there. And I feel like it was extremely irresponsible, reckless, and should be and the production for Love is Blind should be liable, because that is not how you get ratings. That is not how you get ratings. I feel like it was despicable. I was disgusted. And I understand. You guys know I love reality TV dating shows. All the rest of them, I ain't mad. Allie didn't want Anton. Megan didn't want Jordan at the end because he don't have any money. We already knew that. Even here with Joe and Madison, Joe got Botox, maybe allegedly. Madison, he said that she was bigger than the girls. That is all a part of what we come to expect on reality TV. This young lady here, Annie, had a very odd wig for a hairstylist. Nick was a POS who switched and was very strategic and calculating. All that is good. It's cool. It's cool. That's why people tune in. People love watching the shock on people's faces when what they were talking to in the pause does not look like what's at the other end of that reveal, experience. We love it. But to exploit someone struggling with mental health is not cool. And I hope that that is corrected. I also believe to exploit someone who is struggling with their racial identity is not cool. Because like I said, it's not just about Anna, it's not just about Anna and about Patrick. It's also about all the other Asian American young people out there watching that are in predominantly white spaces struggling themselves. All the other minorities, period, that are struggling. And you just broach a topic that is so salacious and so look at what's going on right now in the world. I'm not going to get into a political conversation, but this is not the climate for that. This is not the climate for racial insensitivity in a public forum without context or responsibility. And this is also not the climate to exploit and just, make fun of someone for having dealt with a painful, traumatic childhood, who is still struggling to get themselves in a safe place mentally. Not cool. Not cool. So, I can't wait to the reunion. We're definitely going to recap it here. But I just wanted to make a responsible post, and just talk about the fact that these things are not cool. And I hope Love is Blind does better. Really quickly, if you joined late, my 5 reasons for this season of Love is Blind being trash is: number 1, they were not prepped correctly. The first two castmates left in the first 4 episodes, just ghosted everybody. Anna and Blake just left. That proves to me that they were not prepped. They were not vetted. They did not really let these people know what they were what they were planning for. Anna left because she felt like her family was going to have a problem with it. Blake, like they just did not really vet these people. They did not do the correct preparation. And the fact that 2 castmates leave that early on is a problem. Number 2, there was a lot of racially insensitive conversation with no responsible context. And I just talked about that with Anna and Patrick. Anna and Patrick's conversation, and then the Patrick's conversation again with Casey was disgusting. Like, no, you do not have him be basically almost berating himself because he's Asian and hoping that this blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman will accept him. No, Love is Blind. And then number 3, Casey was a ridiculous red flag with that cringy, sexually explicit conversation about her landing strips. Girl, it was too much. We didn't need all that. They could have went someplace else. Number 4, and most importantly, I feel like Edmund was used as a plant by production for ratings. From the very moment they met him, they knew that he was going to stand out and people were going to tune in to make fun of him or to laugh at him. And then number 5, Edmund's family, dysfunctional family, was used for ratings. His mother was exploited, I feel like, as well. She should not have been on camera. I don't know who that man was. They said it was a daddy. I did like the 5th grade teacher. She is the only person that should have been on there because Edmund shouldn't have been on there. And, so those are my reasons. Please let me know if you agree. I appreciate all you guys in the live chat. Let me know what you think. If you're watching this on the recap, if you're a fan of Love is Blind, did this season change your mind? Do you feel like they took things too far? Do you think that they will come back and make some changes? As I mentioned when I first started, Love is Blind has had numerous lawsuits. I know there's been issues with cast saying that they've been given alcohol and not given food. You guys know those little gold cups, they are in every scene. They are in every scene, and they are the cups that are like mugs and the little champagne glasses. Kudos to the production company on merchandising those mugs, because they're every scene we see a gold mug. It looks like the Game of Thrones to me. It reminds me of Game of Thrones, but they have gone crazy with the merch, with the mugs and the champagne flutes that are gold that let you know that they're filming a Love is Blind scene. But we've heard allegedly that cast were given alcohol without food, which tends to make you overshare and say things you normally wouldn't and go a little bit further than you probably would when it comes to your anger or your emotions, all of that. Also, there have been allegations that there was inappropriate sexual conduct. I don't know how any of these things have ended, because a lot of them probably were settled out of court. But I just really wish that someone would be an advocate for Edmund and would basically take that up with the production. This season was grossly irresponsible for casting someone that is struggling with mental health. And that's my 2 cents on it. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight on a Thursday. Make sure that you tune in tomorrow night when Scorpio Mo and I are back for Relationship Recap. We're going to be talking about Bell Collective. I'm seeing some crazy stuff. And of course, Ready to Love, giving you our update on the upcoming season of Ready to Love. And we may do a little bit of talk about Love is Blind if there's anything else that happens in the news before then. But make sure you're tuned in tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern. If you're watching this on the recap, thank you so much. Make sure that you like this and share it. I want to know if people agree with me, if they feel like the production company for Love is Blind was irresponsible, if they overstepped, if they, exploited. If you agree with any of that, let me know. If you don't, you can let me know too. Let me know what you think. If you think that entertainment is entertainment and anyone that signs up, deserves what they get, we can talk about it. We can talk about it. But I appreciate you guys. Love you all every time you tune in. It means more than you know. Please like this, share it, leave your comments on the live, leave your comments down below. And I will see you guys tomorrow at 10 p.m. All right. Have a good night.